So if you all are just joining us, we want to say welcome. And up next, we're going to have a panel discussion with Agraria's Regenerative Farmer Fellows. As Susan mentioned, we are doing more. And one of those pieces that she mentioned was our fellowship program. And so I'm excited to get an opportunity to introduce my colleague who oversees that program here shortly. But we want to say that we're thrilled to have you all join us here this afternoon. We have a very exceptional and exciting program, but I just want to first say that we have a few technical pieces. There is going to be an opportunity throughout the entire conference to engage with one another, and as well as with the speakers as well. So if you have any questions or anything, please put your questions in the chat box in the Q&A. You will also have an opportunity to ask a question and unmute yourself during specific times. And we just ask that you just be respectful and mindful of everyone here in this space today. So we can move on to my introduction. So I am, again, so pleased to introduce my colleague, Tia Stewart. Tia is the owner and operator of the Narrowway Farm in Brookville, Ohio. She works for Agraria, the Center for Regenerative Practice, as the Regenerative Farmer Fellowship Coordinator. She is also working with the Central State University's Farm Incubator Program, specifically Edgemont and Trotwood, as their farm mentor. Tia has over 20 years of experience growing, preserving, preparing food and teaching others how to do this exact same thing. So it is with my pleasure and honor to introduce Tia Stewart, who is going to be moderating this conversation this afternoon with our Regenerative Farmer Fellows. Tia?
Thank you, Ariella. As Ariella said, my name is Tia Stewart, and I am the BIPOC Farming Initiative Director here at Agraria. Part of my job here is also to oversee the RFF, the Regenerative Farmer Fellowship. And today we have some of our fellows here to speak about their experiences in their personal spaces, and also here through RFF. We'll start with Sierra.
So 3 years ago today, not today, 3 years ago, my ancestors came to me in a dream and told me I needed to learn how to grow food in order to take care of my family and my community. I'm now a backyard urban farmer in the process of starting a nonprofit, Start Where You Are, with goals of increasing food access and inspiring healing through nature and incubating curiosity and exploration. I want to provide hands on the ground therapeutic healing through sustainable agriculture and developing a healthy connection to food. I also want to encourage a symbiotic relationship with nature by using available space and resources. My focus specifically will be working with disinvested communities in K through 12. The Regenerative Farmer Fellowship has helped me to develop a business plan and fine-tune my dreams into something that is actually attainable. Being in this program and being around other people of color with the same passion and goal has been overwhelmingly fulfilling itself. So I'm very happy to be a part of it and feel very blessed.
Thank you, Sierra. Yes, we've had such wonderful, rich times of community here, just coming together. A lot of times we'll share one another's farms, just different tasks, and maybe we'll share a little bit about that later. We'll move on to the next person, Anita Armstead.
Hello, my name is Anita Armstead, and I am the owner and operator of Eden's Harvest. It's an urban micro farm in the west side of Dayton. How we came to be. Eden's Harvest began at the end of 2021, shortly after I attended a presentation by Dr. Brittany Jones on food sovereignty. Her lecture helped me to understand the need for more land-owning Black farmers to help reorganize the distribution of power and resources within our current food system. The food sovereignty part was really emphasized to me the need for us to reclaim the land, food, our livelihoods, and our identities, especially for food insecure individuals. via the direct participation in the design and implementation of our food systems. COVID-19 really showed the fragility of our food system and how this need for food sovereignty is now. We need to act on this now. And so after hearing that, I wasn't sure how I could help, but I knew I wanted to. I actually needed to. And so I prayed and I asked God how I could help. And I reminded God of his promise to provide for his people. And less than 2 weeks later, I was gifted 3.5 acres of land from an ally to this movement, Jennifer Burns, with Access to Excess, another nonprofit that reduces food waste and gets it to those in need. And so the property that I was given is located in a urban underserved community. And so thankfully I was also connected to RFF shortly after that, because I was not planning on being a farmer, but here I was with the space. And I'm thankful for RFF because the program has taught me so much about not only how to care for the people that are in need, but how to also work with the land and to care for the land in a way that's sustainable, and how to nourish the land. And so with these techniques that I've been learning with RFF, I've been able to transform the property. It had been sitting for a couple of years into a space that is ready to be used to grow food. And so the vision of Eden's Harvest is we seek to bless others abundantly as we've been so abundantly blessed. And we sow abundantly that we may give it.
Thank you, Anita. That was beautiful. Ms. Sharifa will go next.
Hi, my name is Sharifa Tomlinson. I am the owner operator of Agraria Farm. It's an urban sanctuary in Riverside, Ohio. We have a small farm of 12 acres. It's dedicated to working with BIPOC women and their families. We started this in response, as everyone else is saying, basically to food apartheid where I was living, and also not being able to really have access to just good farm food. So I decided to then start Agraria Farm so that we could all kind of work together and produce some food. So.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sharifa. Brother Gregory.
Yes, my name is Gregory Muhammad. I'm from Dayton, Ohio. I'm an owner operator of Oasis Farm, west side of Dayton, off of 40 South Decker. My goal with the farm is to begin an agricultural learning center, which will hope to regenerate young people to be involved in the agriculture. As I was regenerated, I thought about the word regenerate, which reminded me of the story of Adam in the Bible, where God said that there was no man to till the soil. So if there's nobody to till, then that means there will be less food in the community, and our people are suffering from poor food, the food insecurity, the food desert, as they call it, and just to get young people involved in agriculture. So the 4 acres was gifted to us by Mr. Donald Eakins, and he said, use it for what it needs to be used for. And agriculture came to my mind. Right here I am.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Brother Gregory. And Jordan, you're next.
Yeah, howdy. I'm Jordan Brika. I started with urban and guerrilla farming when I was about 12. And then when I was about 18, I moved to the Cheyenne River Youth Project to work for 3 months. And then I suddenly realized that the hood and the res had one problem called food apartheid. And it upset me because those are both of my people. So I decided to spend the rest of my life working in farming. I moved to Yellow Springs about 2 years ago to start a farm with my husband just to sustain our families. And I was lonesome because, you know, pandemics are hard and moving is hard and living rurally as a person of color is hard. So I got really lucky to come to RFF and learn things about starting a business because I'm pretty much used to farming to can and pickle for free and drop it off at people's houses. But I do have to survive capitalism. So now I need a skill set to be able to sustain myself so I can continue the work that I want to do. And then my husband and I formed our LLC for our farm called Bitty Poppy Farm. And I'm hoping to expand it and turn it into like an educational space, mostly for small children, because I like that the most. My goals are, I think, pretty simple. I think people deserve free food. I think that kids should get to play outside whenever they want to. And so I'm planning on trying to facilitate those things as much as possible. The Regenerative Farming Fellowship really has helped me reach out and make connections in this area. I was so nervous when I moved here because I didn't know anybody. And when you get into food sovereignty, it tends to be in urban places, but because I have no connections to date, I didn't really know how to get started. So it's like more than taking classes, it was just nice to have friends and get to work with people like me. And I'm trying so hard not to sneeze right now. Damn, summer allergy, fall allergies and trying really hard. So my apologies if that interrupts us. But yeah, I think that we need to be creating sustainable food systems by using Indigenous education and experiential education to not just fix things, but to plan for beyond us. So what are you doing with your land and how's that going to affect the next 7 generations of people coming after you? What are you going to do when the world around you is changing? You don't necessarily have to choose chaos, you can choose.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. It appears as if some people can't hear us. So I am trying to work to see if we can mitigate that problem. And while we do that, we do have a question. Let's see if we have any questions in the chat first. I don't see any questions in the chat, so we will move on to our first question. What are some of the challenges that you face since starting your farming journey?
I'll answer that. First of all, being completely new to farming, one of the main challenges that I faced was simply lack of knowledge. And so as the season began to go on, I was thankful as RFF introduced us to new practices and different things that I could try to implement. And this next biggest challenge I had was actually access to water out on the space. There is no water on the property that I have other than a rain catchment system that was not put together completely. And so over the season, learning how to fix that and put that together and still trying to tackle that problem of having a direct water source on the space. So hopefully looking to maybe crowdsource or start a GoFundMe or something for getting a well out on the property, or also maybe applying for grants to get a well. I'm currently in the Harrison Township, so some of the grants that are directly for Dayton City don't apply to me. So trying to work around that so that I can get that access to the water, because thankfully when I was gifted the space, I was gifted lots of tools and the structure pretty much was in place. It just needed to be maintenance and cultivated a bit, but not having water was one of the biggest challenges for me.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear?
Can we be heard?
Do you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, although there are some other sounds like bumping of the speaker perhaps. And if you wouldn't mind, just speak louder. I think that will help us hear better.
Do I need to repeat what I said or am I okay?
I think we can move on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you.
And Anita and I have been comparing notes on water access because for me, when I grew up urban and guerrilla farming, you went to your neighbor's house and you knocked on the door and they would let you put a hose outside their house. And because all the houses are close to each other, it wasn't a problem. Now the option on my land is to either drop a well somewhere, which like isn't possible based on where my septic is placed, or running a hose 2 acres across my land. So I haven't really come up for a solution for that one yet, except for just hauling the water in large buckets back and forth with these here, with this here machine of my body. But hopefully I'll come up with a more efficient, less backbreaking solution. But it's been a dry summer, so I haven't been able to really rely on the fact that Ohio's precipitation does a lot of the watering for me the way that I plant. It's purposely not to waste water, not really have to use water from my well, but unfortunately, the earth is changing. The wet season is different now. It comes at a different time of the year, so I cannot rely upon nature. I got to bucket water out, but it's a whole new challenge. It didn't used to be a problem when I was a kid. It used to rain more in the summer. I remember.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Jordan. So we have a few, thank you for your comments, both Anita and Jordan. We do have a few questions in the chat. Terry Jett says, you all are fantastic, already learning a lot. Are you all full-time farmers?
No.
No.
I think I might be the only one who's
Yeah.
full-time right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Elizabeth says, what about rain barrels? And Arlinda also said, what about water catchment? So does anyone want to speak to that?
Yeah, rain barrels are good until the mosquitoes develop. Then
I
then
got
you
some
got
for you.
extra problems. But rain barrels are definitely needed. If you can get the spray paint them black if they're white, just to keep the algae from building up in them as much as possible.
They also have, I found covered, so you can get off of Amazon on rain barrels, just like the size, to be able to help during winter time, and then also with the
Yeah. And then there's also certain bacteria that you can use to drop into treat the water, and it only affects mosquitoes and larvae. So we can talk about that later after the panel.
Okay.
We also have a question. Yolanda asked, are climate issues creating problems for farmers?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
How are you addressing those issues?
How are we addressing those issues? Sometimes I get smacked in the face with a new problem I'm not ready for. So it changes every year. When you've been doing it your whole life, you really notice how the seasons are different. Like I'm only 29 and I started farming when I was 12. So to notice the change in everything that I have to do things is kind of a big deal. But bugs as a pest are a bigger issue than they used to be when I was a kid. So many different things are challenges. Erosion is a thing that I noticed pretty rapidly in the garden. That didn't used to be as much of a problem. So the list, this could be its own panel, really.
I'm
I
also
don't know.
looking at changing the things that I'm growing now. I'm focusing a lot more on peppers because they grow in where I'm at better than I've ever grown them before. I'm not growing things like, I'm not growing broccoli or lettuces, things that need a little bit more care. Changing our plant system from using just any kind of flowers and stuff is to using native plants, and that's what we're advertised. I use different native plants here for if you want to have flowers in the garden, that type of thing. So that's we're just kind of changing what we're growing and where. And then the microclimate section I was talking about.
Awesome. We also have some more questions in the chat. Let's see. How do you decide what to grow? Do you have animals?
For me, it's been trial and error. Seeing what I feel have a connection with from the garden, because it makes me happier to tend to the crops that I'm choosing. Also, I feel like what Ms. Teresa said, climate and weather do have a bigger input. You have to adapt as much as you can to choose crops that need less water or can handle the heat more. That's definitely been something that's affected what I'm choosing to grow.
Then, depending on the size of your farm or your garden, a lot of times you just have to grow some for the animals, for the pests. And then when it comes to insects, try to do companion plants and think about the herbs that repel insects or attract them.
I also think about what is culturally appropriate for the people in the area. Like, what do they want to eat? You know, what can I get to them that they're not going to find necessarily in their program, or what is culturally appropriate to them?
One of those are my peppers I'm growing now, the Scotch bonnet peppers that I lived down in St. Thomas for years and years, and I got used to cooking with them, and I can't find them anywhere. So I started growing them for myself, and now it's expanded into growing for other people too. And I also have animals, so there's asking about animals. I raise chickens for meat and eggs, and then I also raise meat rabbits because I'm experimenting with them this year because they're very quiet animals, so you have a good source of protein. And you can raise them kind of stealth if you need to in urban settings. So I'm just trying to find the things that people are going to eat meat that they can eat that's quiet to raise.
Awesome. So we have more questions. Can you tell us about some of the methods you use to take care of the soil, to nourish the soil?
chopped leaves from your yard. It's brown gold is what Miss Tia told us, and she's right. I dropped the money on getting a leaf sucker and chopper thing just attached to itself. That replenishes my compost and my soil so well that sometimes I just mix that with dirt and it seems really loose. But if you put that on the ground in the winter, it comes out the richest, softest dirt you've ever had. I do winter crops like garlic in order to help make sure that my soil remains aerated, because garlic bulbs help push it apart and break the chunks from underneath. Learning more about successional planting, especially this year, is helping me change the way that I farm to be more seasonable and more planned for the long term. You can keep growing and planting pretty much all times of the year, depending on what you're doing. And I think that because of the way agrarian science is used right now, we're told, no, you have to start planting at this time, or you're not going to get anything by this time. And that is a very Eurocentric way to think of planting. So I just think that rotating your crops, using successional planting, all of these things build up your soil because you're just being better to it. And it becomes a process of always putting more back in than you take out.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, Jordan. So our last question is, what are some of the successes or good opportunities that you've had connected to your new farming career?
So I'll try to answer that. I guess the biggest success for me as far as this program has really been community and the opportunity to be around other Black people that are farmers, and just being, we are such a diverse range, I mean, age and background, and have so much to offer that we get to have community with each other and grow and learn. And I don't know, it's just been really beautiful. A lot of my ancestors have passed that were farmers, and then I get to come here and I have elders and I have people that are my age that are trying to learn and gather as much information as we can, which is honestly, it's hard to get that information from people. The programs can be expensive. I'm 30 years old, so
Sorry, like somebody talk so the camera will go off of me.
I'm 30 years old, so I can't afford to go to school and not have a job, and I get to come here and I'm paid to learn and fully be absorbed with the
It makes a whole.
I know, right? I have to be absorbed with like
Get out of here, Gregory.
we yeah, I mean, this is the most successful thing that I could be a part of. It's built my confidence. It makes me feel like my voice is valuable, and like I'm meant to be here. And I'm so happy that when I had that dream with my ancestors speaking to me, that I listened, because this is not something that I plan to do, but I can't imagine being a part of anything else. Also, just as far as career-wise, I've also been offered the opportunity to help a nonprofit in Cincinnati, which is where I'm from, develop another program for BIPOC that is focused on environmental justice. They heard me speaking about my struggle having, not a full college education, being an older, I'm an adult, I guess, but being an adult with lower education, trying to find my way into environmental justice to represent the people that this is actually about, and organizations that are mostly white male led. So now I get to help develop a program and hopefully give back to other people just as much as this has for me.
Thank you so much, Sierra.
Yeah, so this is like I'm family. So.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that's it.
absolutely. And we will wrap it up there, and I'll give it over back to Ariella. Thank you all for joining us for this roundtable event. And if you need to contact me, please, my email is tstewart@agrariacenter.org, and I will be happy to respond to your questions about RFF or BIPOC farming initiatives in general.